very deep breath. And one more. And transition away from whatever is keeping you occupied today, whether that was work or house chores or worrying about all the things, and just invite you to be fully present in this time and the gift of this time together and the creation of this community for one night. Our Unitarian Universalist faith is very concerned with the here and now, in making this world as just and equitable as possible. And about a year ago or so, something disturbed us so greatly, and I know we have different opinions in here, so I'm not going to say what that was. However, we were heart sick, and right after that happened, we had a speaker. She just happened to be speaking. She was from living in Dubai. And she said, I know that we're all shocked and grieving and heartsick, but I want to remind you of something. Like, I live somewhere where we don't have the freedom to speak. We don't have the freedom to organize. We don't have the freedom to share what is meaningful to us. And you all do. Don't forget that. And so I know some of us continue to be heartsick at some turns of events, and we still have the opportunity to speak out. And we are so lucky that we have people who are willing to day after day after day after day organize and bring people together and get on the road and drive 200 miles and set up Chipotle so that we can have our voice. So we are so happy to host this evening Common Cause NC and others of you who I know will be hearing from this evening. Gino News. Gino Newsletter. We are so happy to have you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Melissa. And thank you to Unitarian Universal Church in Tahoe Valley for hosting us. Y'all, this is stop number 17 on the United States Town Hall Tour. We have been everywhere from Mint Hill, which I know close to Reverend Melissa's family, and everywhere from Wilmington to Silva to last night in Kannapolis, and tonight here with you in Hickory. So thank you very much for being here. We've got a good crowd, some new faces, some old faces. We appreciate y'all taking the time to come out tonight.
Easy with the old.
I mean familiar faces. People I'm glad to see again is what I'm trying to say. Thank you for calling me out, Tiffany. And I want to recognize friends, representatives of organizations who are here tonight who have sent a comment. I know Priya Palmer and Ms. Tiffany Kennedy from Legal Voters of the Catawba Valley, just want to keep on in State County, are here tonight, as well as the Hickory and the NAACP. So give them a round of applause, folks, for being here tonight. And then, of course, Reverend Melissa introduced me, but my name is Gino Zullo. I use he pronouns. I am the campaigns manager at Common Cause, North Carolina. I'm joined by
Sailor Jones, Associate Director at Common Cause, North Carolina. Thanks for having me, Hickory.
And I'm also and our statewide organizing manager.
Hello, Trina Campbell, she, her pronouns. Thank y'all for
Coming from the great country of and before we get started, we always like to have folks indulge me a little bit, which is to say, just like we would do in church, I want you to take a moment real quick. If you see someone near you that you have not met before, I would love for you to just take a moment, introduce yourself, say hi. I know it is not the most exciting thing, but we start off every event this way, and we won't stop in Hickory. So take a moment to introduce yourself to someone you don't know that's near you. now this is the best part where I thought everyone would come back together, but people don't want to stop talking. 3 minutes in Kannapolis last night to bring people back together. I appreciate y'all indulging me. When we say Unite North Carolina, as corny as it sounds, we mean it. And we're going to unite everybody in the room, too. Where's some folks coming from tonight? I know, is it mostly Hickory folks in the room, or who else?
Lincoln County.
Lincoln County. Welcome, Lincoln County.
Valdez.
Valdez. Which county is that?
Burke.
Burke County. Anyone else from Burke County? All right.
Oh, yeah.
What? Morganton or Valdez? There you go. Who else? That's also raised your hand? Morganton. Beautiful. So we've got kind of a couple different counties represented here tonight. I appreciate y'all coming, because Hickory and these surrounding counties are about to be the center of the North Carolina political world here in a minute. And y'all know the reason why? Priya, don't say it. Redistricting. That's a week from today. I heard the groans in the crowd.
Redistricting.
Because a week from today, you are going to have a public hearing, one of the 3, sit in that moment, one of the 3 that North Carolinians are going to get. 3 public hearings about this year's redistricting process, and one of them is going to be here in Hickory next Tuesday at the Appalachian State University campus here. So we are going to, I just saw the look on your face. I'm guessing not a space that is conducive to getting a lot of people from the public.
For the whole state, that's absurd.
Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. And so, friends, I promise you, we have shifted up our format a little bit tonight because this news just came out yesterday that there will be a hearing in Hickory on Tuesday. We're going to spend a good bit of time at the end of our time here together talking about what to expect and what we'll need to do next. And sir, you had a question?
Is this a natural thing, redistricting, or is someone pushing that?
As you will hear a lot in what I'm about to talk with you tonight, it is natural if it happens once every 10 years. But we all live in North Carolina, and so we know every time the wind blows, our voting districts change. And we will explain a little bit of how we got here, sir, when we get to that redistricting portion, I promise you.
Thank you.
But the short answer is we shouldn't have to be doing it, and we are. So. But friends, tonight, the redistricting is a part of it, but we are also here for a bigger purpose, which is that about 300 days ago or so, the North Carolina General Assembly kicked off its 2023 legislative session. How many of y'all have heard about something that happened in Raleigh this year? Shout it out. Shout it out. What have you heard about?
Board of Education.
Board of Education.
Board of Election.
Casinos, Board of Elections, Medicaid expansion, budget mainly coming. It's a little bit murky right now. Unclear day to day, but we'll update y'all on that in a moment. Women's health care and abortion restrictions, I heard that. What else?
Gender affirming
Good
care.
standing modifications, gender affirming care, that's right.
They want to take power away from the state board of elections.
That's right.
Appointments.
I'm gonna bring you up here. That is exactly right. And I'm going to ask y'all a few questions now because we know generally the issues that have been talked about, but I want to learn a little bit more about how y'all feel about the kind of issues and the kinds of things you care about. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. And if you agree with what I'm saying, I want you to raise your hand, okay? This is a very active and involved presentation. So, first I want to ask you, how many of you believe that North Carolinians should have clean air to breathe and safe water to drink?
Yeah.
All right, there we go. I agree with that too. I don't want any PFAS in my water. How many of you believe that the tax dollars you spend should be invested in your community? All right, okay, everyone agrees. That's right. Say that I think we may have the beginnings of a consensus.
Unanimity. Who knew it could be this?
If you can say it 3 times fast. How many of you want good public schools and quality education for your kids?
Yeah.
And all kids? Absolutely. And I'll close with one other question, which is, how many of you want a genuine voice in your government and representatives who give a damn about you? Okay. Good. So we are all generally on the same page. So the question I'm going to close with is, you all named a number of issues that happened in the General Assembly Has the action on those issues matched what you all agreed here tonight?
No.
And I can promise you, that at all 16 stops before this on the town hall, with those questions, everybody raised their hand and everybody agreed that that has not been the agenda in Raleigh. So, if that has not been the agenda in Raleigh, what has been on the agenda? Well, a number of bills that I'm going to talk a little bit about here with you tonight, but I also imagine you all are here because you want to talk about them. But let's first start with the elections bills. A number of you named a number of changes that are coming to our elections this year. The first of those is a bill called Senate Bill 747. How many of y'all heard this bill? Good number of y'all. For those who haven't heard about it, this bill, we call it the jumbo jet of voter suppression, as one of our senators in the state senate likes to say, but it's really an omnibus bill that makes a number of changes to elections. The most important change that it makes is that it reduces, not just reduces, it eliminates the 3-day period for your mail-in ballot to be accepted. How many of you have voted by mail or know someone who voted by mail before? Right, so in the past, 2020, 2022, if you were waiting to vote because you didn't know who you wanted to vote for, but you got it all in the mail, got it all put together, got it to the post office, and it was postmarked by election day, as long as it got there within 3 days, you were good. Your ballot was going to count. Because, obviously, right, if it was postmarked by election day, it's not like you voted after election day. Bolstered by what has been a narrative that somehow there is fraud in our elections, which we know not to be true. The General Assembly has used this year Senate Bill 747 to eliminate that 3-day grace period. If that bill had been in place in the 2020 election, it would have meant about 12,000 eligible ballots would have been discounted and thrown out. Now, this is a state where the race for the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court was decided by how many votes? Who knows? 401. That's right. So you tell me 12,000 ballots being thrown out, is that going to have an impact on North Carolina's elections? Absolutely. There's a number of other changes to Senate Bill 747 that deprives our local county boards of elections of needed funding, especially to implement things like voter ID this year. I won't bore all for you with all the changes because I begged Reverend Melissa to let us keep here until midnight, but she said no, so I won't go into all the changes. But if you are curious and digging deeper, this little booklet that you have with you on your chair explains more in detail some of those changes that are coming in 2023 and 2024. Now, folks also mentioned changes to election boards. How many of you heard about Senate Bill 749? Okay, good number of y'all. For those who aren't familiar, Senate Bill 749 is, in our estimation, as common cause, even more concerning. Now, the way your elections are run right now in North Carolina is you've got a local county board of elections, Catawba County, and Sailor, could you put a Ms. Duncan just so real quick? You've got a wonderful elections director, Amanda Duncan, and you've got a local elections board here in Catawba County, and then you've got a state board of elections. Both of those boards are made up of 5 members, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 person, chosen by the governor. So, of course, all of the majority of all these boards are Democrat, but under Governor Pat Hickory, they were all Republican. Now, Senate Bill 749 is very craftily named no partisan advantage in elections. What it does is it changes the structure of each of those boards to make them have even partisan splits. Now, the question I want to ask y'all is, when was the last time you saw the 2 parties agree on anything except? Can anyone give me an example? I'm waiting. And that's exactly what the upshot is. Now, we think these boards are probably, in the event that Senate Bill 749 passes, which we believe it will, especially over what we expect to be Governor Cooper's veto, that on many small things the boards will agree. But on the big things, especially early voting plans, how many sites there will be, the hours they're open, paid for poll workers, we don't believe that there will be agreement, because that has not historically been the case here in North Carolina. And the threat, the risk of legislation like this is that, just to give you an example when it comes to early voting, under current law, if Senate Bill 749 were to pass, if your local Elections Board here in Catawba County was deadlocked on early voting plan. They couldn't agree. That goes with the State Board of Elections. State Board of Elections, evenly split, also doesn't agree. What that means is that Catawba County, and any other county that's experiencing this problem, has one early voting site, usually the Board of Elections office, that's open only during business hours and with one Saturday. That is a marked difference from a 17-day early voting period with evening hours and multiple weekend options. You can imagine in a place not far from here, like Mecklenburg County, how disastrous that might be. Mecklenburg County, 1 million plus people, had 20 plus early voting sites in 2020. If this were to be the reality in 2024, this is the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections office. How many parking spots do you see? There ain't enough. I can tell you that much. And so we risk a situation in which it's not only chaos at the early voting site, and there's not even options that are accessible to those who are working during the day, for example, but that on election day, long lines and chaos that really would be unprecedented in North Carolina. That is what we are afraid of, the risk of Senate Bill 7. As you can see, this is why they invite me to all the parties. I just cheer everybody up. But that is Senate Bill 749. And that's in addition to all the voting changes where we have to show photo voter ID this year. That's more information about that in your pamphlet. But it's not just elections bills that are going to dramatically change our lives. Many of you talked about the state budget. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, the North Carolina General Assembly was supposed to give us a state budget about 2 months ago, 3 months ago at this point. Fiscal year is long started. And that budget is intended to not only expand access to Medicaid in North Carolina, but was supposed to address abysmal teacher pay, supposed to address a really serious bus driver shortage in the state, and to make sure that all of our public institutions have the funds that they need, especially to keep up with inflation, which we're all suffering from. That budget still isn't passed. The reason it isn't passed, and some of y'all named it, is because at the last second, and truly, I mean, this is just the public information, at the last second, with no hearings, with no information about how we got here, there is a plan to try to legalize casino gambling in North Carolina and put a bunch of casinos in places like Anson, Nash, Rockingham counties. And unbeknownst to the public to this point, now recent reporting in the media has revealed that as early as March and April of this year, legislative leaders knew about this plan to introduce casinos. In Rockingham County, they approved a rezoning of land for eventually building those casinos. North Carolinians didn't know until July, August. And now, the latest news, the fight is still ongoing as we speak in Raleigh. They have now tied Medicaid expansion in a separate bill with legalizing casinos. So if they want to expand Medicaid access to hundreds of thousands of North Carolinians, they are also going to have to legalize a casino gambling scheme. Which, this is politics as usual in North Carolina, but it still bears repeating everywhere that we go. And for Common Cause, the utter lack of transparency in a public process concerns us a great deal. We were in Rocky Mount last week, and the Republican chair of the county commission came and said, absolutely hell no to casinos in my county. If you want casinos in my county, we should have a vote. And we'll decide it then. And of course, even the members of his own party will not listen to him. Not just the budget. That's right. That's exactly right. So that is how we should all react. It is not just the budget, it's not just elections, there's a number of changes. We know that there have been restrictions on abortion. We know that there have been attacks on LGBTQ plus children in particular. We also know that there are bills, part of what they're trying to implement in the new version of the budget is a kind of siphoning of public funds from traditional public schools to charter schools in North Carolina. Now, folks may have opinions one way or another about their own child's education, but it seems like we can all agree that we shouldn't have to fund charter schools at the expense of traditional public schools where the majority of our kids still go. That is also part of the budget. And the last one I wanted to note as well is that the North Carolina Farm Act was passed this year. And the most important thing to know about that is that it removes protections from about 2.5 million acres of wetlands in this state in the name of development in a way that most scientists agree affects our water quality. In a state where, in the Cape Fear River, we know is quite infiltrated by forever chemicals. When we went to Wilmington, that was a big topic of discussion. So that is what is happening in North Carolina right now. And then the cake on the top, the creme de la creme, is now they're about to redraw the voting maps, which is of course going to be their attempt to try to entrench themselves in power. There is good news on that front. We have things that are going to be on our side, and we'll talk about it. But that is going to be the kind of final bow of the legislative session this year. So, what are we here to do, Sailor?
We're here to talk and listen.
We're here to talk and we're here to listen. We are doing these events not only to try to share this information about what's happening in the General Assembly in real time, but also to open up a conversation with all of y'all. For the vast majority of the event that we have left, we are going to take time to pass the mic to you and give each of y'all a chance to voice either your questions about what you've heard tonight, or since many of you are already pretty familiar with the issues, your perspective and your opinion on them. Now, I will say, Sailor, will you go to that beautiful beam footage at the beginning? Whenever it comes. Oh, we just passed it. We're trying to go to the lawmakers. So we did, with a good bit of notice, at least more than a month, invite each of your lawmakers to be here tonight, to be able to hear what you all have to say. I can tell what you all thought about that prospect. We did receive, and this is, I want to say this in fairness about, and to be transparent, we did receive a response from Senator Dean Proctor, who said that his assistant said he'd be on vacation until September 26th. I do happen to know that the Senate is in session in Raleigh right now, so I'm not quite sure which one it is, but they did say that he would be on vacation until the 26th, and we did not receive a response from Representative Adams or Representative Setzer. Regardless of that, we are here tonight still to make our voices heard. We are capturing tonight all the kind of conversations that we are going to have, and it is our hope and it is our plan that y'all's testimony, y'all's commentary, the issues you care about, we are going to put those together with what we've heard from the 1,100 other people who have joined us at the previous 16 town halls. And we are going to make sure that these three know what you had to say, even if we've got to send them a carrier pigeon to do it and do it every which way till Sunday. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Because we believe that it's important that if the North Carolina government, the North Carolina General Assembly is not going to take the time to hear from its citizens, we will. And each of us will hear each other. And everywhere from Silva to Wilmington, we will hear each other as well. So I want to kind of lay a couple of ground rules, a couple of expectations for how this will go tonight. One, if you don't have anything that you want to say that's kind of your perspective on the issues, your questions are totally welcome. But if you are thinking about what you want to say, but you're not quite sure what you want to say, maybe you just got some righteous anger that you want to get out, we do have two questions that we are asking members of the audience to consider. The first is very simple. If Representative Setzer, Representative Adams, Senator Proctor were in this room tonight, what would you want them to know? That is the first question. And it can be anything you want to talk about. We only ask that you keep things nonpartisan. We are a nonpartisan organization. That doesn't mean you can't talk about facts. That doesn't mean you can't be honest about the facts of the situation, but we ask that we focus on issues and our experiences rather than party politics. So that's number one. Second question we're asking people, and this is kind of the bigger one, is that, we can talk all night about the things we don't like, and there is a lot to talk about. But we also want to know what you all think the future of North Carolina ought to look like. What does the future look like that's not here in the present right now? And that is something that we are also talking to people about all around the state. So, those are the first two. Our only real rule is to be nonpartisan. Our other only rule is just to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak tonight. We'll try to keep folks at around 2 to 3 minutes each for speaking. And my friend Retrina Campbell, raise your hand, Retrina, will have a lovely little clipboard that I'm going to find for her in a moment that will let you know kind of when your time to speak is done. So, does anybody have any questions about kind of the next portion of the event? All right. So we will do this, friends, for about 30 or so minutes. We'll have a conversation here. And then, like I said, we're going to shift things up a little bit and talk about redistricting and what's going to come next week. We do already have folks who signed up to speak as they came in and already knew that they had something they wanted to say. The very first person is Tiffany Candidate. So I'm going to open up to y'all. Give her a round of applause. It's hard to speak first at anything. So I'll give this to Tiffany.
Scary, I got the mic. As a member of the League of Women Voters North Carolina Board of Directors, I wish to address S749, the bill that would fundamentally alter the NC and county boards of elections, which was heard in committee today and will likely be fast-tracked to a full House vote soon after. At that full House vote, we also expect that there will be a veto override vote on S747, the Elections Omnibus Bill. The changes in committee substitute for S749 will be noticeable during County Board of Elections meetings after June 1st, 2024, if it becomes law. The County Board of Elections would decrease from 5 to 4 members. All members would be appointed by the legislature with some input from the state political party chairs. The county directors of election are appointed by the county boards of elections, not the county board of commissioners. An even-numbered board will have consequences for decision-making. I expect several provisions in this bill or law will be challenged in court, and in 2017, a related law was introduced, passed, and found unconstitutional. In 2018, a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would make similar changes was rejected 2-1 by the voters. And we would encourage, and I'm speaking again on the League of Women Voters North Carolina Board of Directors, we would encourage the public to contact their state legislators in regards to this bill, and also to visit vote411.org for nonpartisan election and candidate info.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's give another round of applause to Tiffany. Thoroughly. I'm missing one of my sheets, but I know that the next person that signed up to speak is Ms. Sigrid Heiss. Yeah, come on up, my friend.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I am concerned about lots of issues, but my biggest issue is the environment. We had the hottest summer on record this year, and it's due to man-made global warming. And of course, this triggers a lot of severe weather events here in our country and around the world. So I have already contacted all 3 of our representatives in Raleigh regarding a no idle law. Vehicle emissions greatly contribute to the warming of our planet. While there is focus on reducing these emissions by increasing electric and hybrid vehicles on the roads, there is no focus here in North Carolina on no idling, on idling vehicles, which emit a concoction of toxins that are harmful to the entire environment and contribute to global warming as well. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the idling of personal vehicles wastes about 3 billion gallons of fuel, which generates around 30 million tons of CO2 annually in the United States. If we would eliminate unnecessary idling of personal vehicles, the amount of fuel we would save and emissions we would reduce would be equivalent to taking 5 million vehicles off the roads. So I've shared all this information already with these representatives. So North Carolina is the 9th most populated state in the United States and causes more air pollution than less populated states, obviously. Sadly though, North Carolina is one of 19 states that does not have a no idle law, whereas the other 31 US states have no idle laws. So I am asking our representatives to introduce a no idle law. It's very much necessary. They are willing to make decisions about women's rights They want to protect unborn babies, which is fine, but protect the children that are here. Children with asthma, grown-ups with COPD. Get something done about this. So I'm asking them everything I've sent to them, email, United States letters to the Postal Service, and phone calls, all has fallen on deaf ears. I want something done about the clean air, or about air being clean.
Thank you very much. And I'm missing one of my sheets, so I'm not quite sure who's signed up to speak next. But if you've got a question or if you've got a testimony that you want to share tonight, at this time we'll open raise hands and we'll go to whoever would like to speak next.
I have a question.
Yeah?
I'm wondering though, the people who have said why they're here, and especially what Sigrid just said, you know, I have questions for her that maybe how does she see this group helping her, because you've already said deaf ears, we know that, but can we talk as a group, or do we need to let everybody say what they want to say? But I mean that I'm hot on that one because I didn't know all that, and what you just said makes sense. And my goodness, you know, anything we can do that's pretty obvious, that's not going to cost a whole lot of money, and we're not talking politics now, you know. but I would like to leave here tonight knowing that this group somehow put some effort into helping somebody who's already here, who's thought about this, who's done the work, and the fact that you've already called them, you know, to anyway, I'm going to quit talking.
No, you're perfect.
The way I'm really excited about that, because thank you.
Well, I think that the people in our county and in our state should get in touch still with the same legislators. They should, well, in other places they should get in touch with their representatives. But we need, you know, the squeaking wheel gets the grease. And just one person speaking up, they're ignoring me. So if we can get a lot of people to call them and write to them and send emails, they will, you know, we'll get their attention. I had an article published about this in the newspaper as well, because there are, for example, signs that the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has signs to put up in parking lots that say, "Turn off your engine, children breathe here." And I've been in touch with city officials here. They refuse, here in Hickory, they refuse to put up the signs in the park. And they put up all sorts of other signs, but not those. And there are parents sitting there during soccer practice, literally for an hour at a time, idling their vehicle, a whole hour at a time. And so these officials tell me, well, it's because it's too hot or it's too cold. No, it's about when it's on the day, the night tonight, like tonight, 70 degrees. They'll sit there with their window up, the vehicle idling. Well, if their kids are exposed to those temperatures, hot or cold, why do they have to be in comfort in their vehicle? You know, they need to think about their own children too. It's a total oxymoron to me. So. But people need to get out and speak up about it. One person alone like me, it's kind of tough, you know, to get things done.
I tried to write down what you said. You said one of 19 states have an idling law or don't have it?
There are 31 states that have no idle laws, and 19 do not. And North Carolina is one of the 19 states that does not have a no idle law. And of course, in other countries, European countries, they have no idle laws, and they are enforcing them. And one of the representatives, it was Mitchell, said so. He told me, I actually telephoned with him. He said, well, if we have a no idle law, then I cannot warm up my vehicle in the morning. That's what he told me. And the Dean Proctor, he sent a very short letter back, and all he said was, I agree with you, But local officials will not enforce the law. That was it.
And Sigrid, if folks are interested in working with you on this issue, can they come find you and get your contact information
Yes.
tonight and
Yes,
afterward?
yes, I would like that, yes.
Yeah, do you have a question?
I think I speak loud enough.
It'll be hopefully recorded.
Well, that was gonna be my question, in these other 31 states, how are they enforcing this? Like, how would this even be enforced in North Carolina?
Well, for one, if I see that a vehicle is in the parking lot while I'm at the park running, and I see it 20 minutes later still idling, and I call the police, they should be able to at least tell them turn it off. There should be fines. It can also be a law that could become something similar to the seatbelt law. You know, people were opposed to that. Everybody's buckling up now pretty much. People have been fined for not wearing their seatbelt. But this is a law that is affecting all of us. It has to do with our health, our personal health, animal health, environmental health, trees, everything, you know, plants. So it's a law that needs to be put in place and needs to be enforced. There are ways of enforcing it. And they can look at other states, they can look at other countries, they can figure out how to do it. They do not have to reinvent the wheel.
No, I think fine work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sigrid. And folks, unless anybody has any other questions for Sigrid, I know everybody came out here tonight because there was something that was concerning to you about what's happening in Raleigh. I'm curious to hear what else brought folks out tonight and what they're concerned about. Anybody who wants to take the mic next and tell us a little bit about that? Don't be shy. Yeah, come on. And please introduce yourself too.
Is it okay if I stay here?
Yeah, of course.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Braun, and I teach at the community college here in Catawba County. It's Catawba Valley Community College. And one of the things that I have a concern about is the legislature making a change that is going to say that you can't have diversity and equity and inclusion as part of your public, if you're in education like we are. And we have a vice president of equity and inclusion, and we've spent, well, my whole entire career, which is more than 20 years in education, really promoting the issue of diversity and equity and inclusion, and recognizing that it's beyond just issues of race. It so encompasses so many more things like that, and it has me gravely concerned for what that means for the student population and just what that means for the state, and how we, you know, again, we are talking here about when you make laws that give people permission, people will go and do that. And when you have laws that say you have to consider diversity and equity, what we have seen in the research is that people make better decisions, that we consider things from a variety of perspectives when we look at things through those kinds of lenses. And so if we don't have the legal basis to support doing that, or conversely, we have laws that say we cannot do that, we are eliminating a really important educational opportunity for students, educators, our general population across the board. And we see that in so many ways, including, for example, what's happening with book banning and things like that.
That's
Thank you.
really, really helpful. I appreciate you raising that. And then I can just ask you one more question. Similarly, when we were at Fayetteville Tech Community College earlier in the summer, they were talking about COVID funding kind of basically running out, and that a lot of public institutions were facing a little bit of a fiscal cliff, absent more funds from the General Assembly. Is that a similar dynamic that's taking place at the community college where you teach? Kind of concerns about funding heading into the next couple of years? And if you don't know, it's totally fine, but I was curious.
Yeah, I would just say briefly that we have experienced the same thing, and that, well, That's all I'm gonna say. Actually.
Yeah, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. And I will share that separately that when we were at Fayetteville Tech Community College, especially for a lot of our community colleges around the state, there was kind of a tranche of money that came through because of COVID and kind of the economic stimulus after that. And folks were sharing with us there that absent a budget with kind of increased funding levels, there's some concerns about being able to continue certain programs and salaries at their community college and many public institutions across the state. So thank you for raising that about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That is of a piece. Yeah, I'm going to go to you. Yeah.
Could you just clarify, has the legislature closed departments of diversity, equity, and inclusion? I know it's been talked about, but has there been a law that has
I'm not totally sure.
Yeah,
I have
Not
heard
too
a
much.
lot of things about it, and that's what concerns me. I don't think it's passed, but I'm worried that the
I didn't know whether it was
legislature will
included in any of the
override the governor.
So far, the only way they really cracked down on it is that there was a bill to basically ban, not to get so in the weeds, but there's a kind of state pension fund that gets managed by I think it's the state treasurer. They were banned from investing in different companies and funds that would have like an environmental or a social good. So that was kind of one way they chipped at it. The only other major piece of legislation that's been of a piece of this has been a legislation called the Parents' Bill of Rights. How many of y'all have heard about this bill? Yeah, more groans. I really like this group. You groan as much as I do. It's great. For those who aren't familiar, that mostly affects our K-12 schools and requires, of course, that the most controversial piece is that if a child decides to change their name or change their pronouns, maybe they're not quite comfortable being at home in their full identity, requires teachers to let parents know that has taken place. And I know just last night, I believe there was a Catawba County School Board meeting here. That's right. So I'd actually be interested if you'd be willing to share anything you observed last night there. But a lot of the big fights and debates have been about what's happening in our K-12 schools. So if you don't mind me asking, would you be willing to share kind of how that was playing out last night at the school board meeting?
Well, last night was a special meeting about one book. One of the school board members was recently elected because she was so very vocal in coming forward to challenge 24 books that at the time she challenged them she hadn't even read herself. But I think she's read a few of them now. But the main challenge, this particular book, was not so much the content. I mean, I guess there's some racial and some sexual content. But part of the problem was that the teenagers in this book spoke the way teenagers have been speaking to each other, certainly since I was in high school in the 1960s. and some of but the book was, but this was a special challenge because she had exhausted every other avenue that it goes through, reading the books and committees who have to be paid to read books, and a waste of time and money. Then she's now a member of the school board, having been elected, and she was now challenging particular books to the school board. She's already brought two there. One was kept in, one was not. And this book was kind of kept in. It's only students who are 18 or older can check it out. Okay. So seniors who are 17 cannot read this book.
I appreciate you sharing that. And it's a useful example because this is playing out in school districts all across the state, right? The superintendent of Chatham County Schools, I believe, was just in the news, basically begging the legislature to delay implementation of the Parents' Bill of Rights. Because it's not just about identification, but it's about the books, create a role for parents in curriculum. An earlier version of that bill even allowed for it, and it didn't become law, but allowed for 5 parents who had concerns to basically raise a complaint and they could get a superintendent fired. So this is an issue that did not become law. just to be clear. But this is of course an issue, this is a live issue that's not going away, and it's playing out every day.
Well, and one of the things here is when you go to meetings, you really see the thinking and intelligence level of some of the people who speak. And it's really shameful. And I feel for some of the brighter school board members now, for what they have to put up with, some of the ridiculous stuff.
We've said for years it's the dumbing down of America. I've never seen anything. I'm so ashamed of being one of the last draftees to serve my country from this county. I'm ashamed of my country right now and the direction it's headed in. You got people worried about 5% of the population instead of 95% of the population, and they're wasting all their time. If you see a neighbor burning plastics in a barrel, you can't even call a law enforcement officer to come and ask them to distinguish it. You got to call the fire marshal's got to come out there and give them a warning. You know, it's a $10,000 fine if you burn trash and plastics in a barrel in your yard in Catawba County. You call somebody. Just see what you get when you call. But we're paying those deputies and our officials to do what for us? Worry about a book that's in school that somebody may or may not check out, for crying out loud. Worry about telling a woman what to do with her body. That's what really upsets me more than anything.
Very few people have checked out the books in their brain.
For God's sake, you don't have what right do I have to tell any woman or granddaughter or grandchild in this world what to do with their body, for crying out loud? Makes no sense to me.
That's right. That's right. I appreciate that, sir. It sounds like you may need to run for office here.
Yeah, I just have one question, and that is, what do adolescents normally do when you tell them they can't do something?
I'm glad we had this talk.
Well, I will not know what I did. Friends, we got the next person here.
My name is Vicki Rowan. I'm actually from the neighboring county. I wanted to tell you a little bit of a personal story. A church near me sponsored an Afghan family. They had 4 kids in school, and they came speaking almost no English. Now the church got together, and I'm not a church person, but I helped them out, and we worked on teaching them English, and I ended up with the 2 high school kids. So I had somewhat intimate knowledge of what was and what wasn't going on in the schools. These 2 15 and 17-year-olds who spoke no English when they got here were getting maybe 2 hours of resource assistance a week by a so-called ESL teacher who didn't go to their classes, didn't translate anything for them, didn't give them any assistance whatsoever. Basically, I was given the assistance on weekends. And I went to some school board members and I said, hey, you know, what gives here? Why is one poor lady who's an ESL teacher going to 4 schools and has 90 kids? Most of them speak Spanish, but these 2 spoke Dari. And what do they do with it? Well, we just don't have the money for more. Well, folks, if they didn't take the money out to go to the charter schools, and they didn't take the money out to go to the private schools for opportunity grants or whatever they call them, and if they actually budgeted money for schools, I don't think I would have been having that problem. Now, these children, after a year and a half, moved to Iredell County, and now Morrisville schools are probably doing the same thing. I don't know. But we need decent budgets for schools, and if they're going to take money and give it to charter schools, they need to put more money in the public schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and amen to that. We're kind of on this speed around education right now. Is there anybody else that wants to jump in to this conversation and add their thoughts?
schools away from the local people and put it on the legislature. That's true.
So you were shaking your head, and I turned to you. I think you might know this better than I do.
In North Carolina,
Yeah.
the State Board of Education is responsible for curriculum, not the local school board.
But they're thinking of turning it over to the legislature.
I don't believe it's happened yet.
I believe it's a proposed bill from one of the Burke County legislatures.
What a shock.
Was it Senator Daniel?
I'm sorry.
Senator Daniel? Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll put a bookmark in that. And when we send y'all an email after the event with all the resources, I'll get the right bill on that and confirm it. Thank you for raising that. All right, we're cooking with gas now, y'all. Is there anything else that brought folks out tonight that's been a concern to them that they want to talk about? We've got time for about a couple more speakers and really would love to hear from as many people as possible. Yeah.
I am Diane Arbor, and I'm also an environmentalist. I just wanted to put it out there that, and I don't know if it's the General Assembly, it may be the Public Utilities Commission, but they've granted Duke the ability to change the rules on people with solar panels on their homes. So, I mean, it was bad enough to begin with. I do have solar panels that were installed 2 years ago, and all the time when they were being installed, I was told, yes, North Carolina has net metering, don't worry, you know. Well, at the end of a year, every kilowatt that I had accumulated just kind of, you know, the running tally on my bill kind of just went away. And it turns out that that's the procedure. I mean, you can accumulate kilowatts that you've generated on your own that sort of stay in your account, but every June that is wiped clean. I had over 2,000 kilowatts that I had produced on my home that they just took. It's just gone. I didn't get a dime for it. And you know, they still charge me $16 a month just to stay on. There'll be a different level that homeowners will not be able to even get anything for all the power that they're generating on their own. So I'm not 100% sure on where it's going next, but just something to keep your eyes on if you ever get a chance to vote on it. You know, if we ever want to be carbon neutral, you got to incentivize people to put these, you know, panels on their homes, and by not paying them anything for what they produce, and let Duke make all the profits off of the energy that citizens produce. I don't think that's the way we're going to do it.
My friend, thank you for raising that, because out of all these town halls, I think you're the first person to raise net metering. And are you connected with a group called NC Warren?
Yes.
Okay, I was going to say, I know that those are the folks back on that issue. No, but you're absolutely right. You have the Utilities Commission, and I believe, Sailor, correct me if I'm wrong, one thing the legislature is trying to do, a lot of those Utilities Commission appointments are from the governor. The legislature is trying to take more appointment power, but it's also, of course, totally within the legislature's ability to craft general laws around reaching carbon neutrality or better energy policies in the state. The Utilities Commission then, of course, crafts the regulations and governs that process. So it is absolutely within the General Assembly's power to hold Duke Energy more accountable. But one of the kind of leading figures of the supermajority party right now is a former Duke Energy executive. So I will just leave those facts out there. But thank you for raising about that. You are the first person out of 1,100 plus people, and I appreciate it. And my friend, you were speaking earlier. I was going to say, I wanted to bring it over to you. Yeah.
So keep on the train of green that we're going on right now. This isn't my question, this is someone who couldn't be here. I'm asking it for him. But I live over right near that new AFSCME where you said that they're going to do the new. Yeah, the hearing on Tuesday, which I did not know about, so thank you. They don't have it. This Hickory is moving, it's getting bigger. Listen, Charlotte's coming up, Winston's going to come down, Ashton's coming right. You can't ignore it. Okay? It's gonna happen, it's gonna get big. This place needs to become more walkable. It needs to be better bike lanes, they did that new school right over there, and then they opened up that Starbucks, and you're gonna get hit trying to get over there, going across Route 21. Like, so there's gonna be an accident there someday. So, his concern is mostly just that Hickory, while downtown is very nice, downtown is very walkable, it's very nice, the rest of Hickory needs to kind of catch up, in that regard. And it's like, housing prices are already, they're skyrocketing, rents skyrocketing, people are trying to move in. This place is gonna get big next 3 to 5 years, so something needs to happen in regard to just making this place more walkable and more friendly to all the people that are about to move in.
Well,
Thank you.
Since Hickory is getting so large, and I mean, they're just expanding constantly. There's several housing things going up just on my way home from downtown, and I live further out in the country. And their infrastructure isn't able to handle it, and the schools won't be able to handle it. Everything that they're doing, they put things in, and then a year later they have to tear them all up and redo them again. It's the biggest waste of money I have ever seen. There's no planning, none. And even the things that they thought, oh well, this will beautify Hickory, they're having to tear everything out and change it because the trucks keep running over the curbs and the plants and the junction boxes outside. I mean, the planning, I've even talked to some of the guys who are doing the repairs, and they said, yeah, they really messed up with their planning, so. But they never came to the people of Hickory to ask about it. It said that the giant sculpture on the bridge would fill over.
Everybody's just falling over, getting run over here.
Yeah, it is.
I better get out of town.
Poor planning, but I would like to see the city keep in touch, and county government keep in touch more with residents here, because they really don't.
And the state legislature, I see you there, next, sir. Also totally within their power to provide better rules. For example, building affordable housing. Many of our cities are prohibited basically by the legislature from things like inclusionary zoning to kind of increase density for housing, bring down costs. And now that's a tough debate, but the general point is the General Assembly could do more to incentivize public transit development, affordable housing development in all of our local municipalities. So appreciate it. And sir, you will have the last word before we go to the redistricting, so it's all you.
I'm sorry to have the last word. I would just like to expand on what was being said. I have written to the newspaper to try to get bicycle lanes and to try to get sidewalks, but particularly bicycle lanes. And that can help not just with congestion, but with all the smog that we breathe. So thank you all for raising that.
I have to add one more thing.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Yeah, and we'll give you the final word.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I walked away from you. But yes, I have contacted county officials 10, 15 years ago about bicycle lanes, and there was a plan from the Western Piedmont Council of Government for bicycle lanes, and 10, 15 years ago, and I still have not seen the bicycle lanes. But one thing that we're doing here in Catawba County in Hickory is we're cutting down a lot of trees for construction, and there are not far enough trees being replanted. The park where I exercise, the Henry Ford Soccer Park, it's been there over 20 years. There is not a single tree on the playground. It's been there for 20 years. It's unbelievable and shameful and inexcusable. So they're not planting enough trees back, which would also help with clean air. So.
Thank you, Stephen. That is a beautiful note to end on. And I just want to point out, I just want to point out, the things we are talking about are basic things that we all deserve. Right? We all deserve to live in places that are healthy, that are walkable, that keep us safe, that have budgets that invest in our schools. And like the gentleman over here said, they're wasting their damn time on a book or a casino. And that's part of why we are calling this, again, I know it's corny, but the Unite and Teach word is because broadly, the things you all have talked about have been raised all over the state. These are broadly popular agenda items, and one of the reasons we do not see our public outrage turned into public policy is because of how the voting maps are drawn. You see how I did that? So